Welcome back to this special edition of State of Texas. We are coming to you from the Texas State History Museum, where John Cornyn and MJ Hagar just wrapped up their U.S. Senate debate. We asked the candidates about the coronavirus vaccine and if it should be mandatory for students to get the vaccine before returning to school. Here's what they had to say.
I'm actually not a huge fan of the government mandating things on your body, but especially when it comes to, we don't have the right to make other people sick and to put other people and their kids at risk. So yes, I support vaccinations.
I think the people who should get the vaccine first are the people who are most likely to die if they get COVID-19, which means people over 80 and people with underlying chronic illnesses. 99 roughly % of the people who get the virus are going to recover. Some of them will end up in the hospital, but children, by and large, tolerate the virus well.
For some perspective, we turn to our roundtable now. We're joined by Gromer Jeffers, who you saw in the debate earlier, political writer for the Dallas Morning News. Eric McDaniel is a professor of government at the University of Texas. And Joshua Blank is a research director for the Texas Politics Project, also at the University of Texas. Welcome to all of you.
Good to be here.
Eric, I want to start with you. What did you think about what the candidates had to say about the coronavirus vaccine and possibly making it mandatory for kids before they go back to school in Texas?
This is a very tricky thing to discuss because it's the line between public health and, again, civil liberties. And this is what we've seen happen regarding measles vaccinations, where we've allowed individuals to be able to choose whether or not their child will be vaccinated, but that has led to massive complications, as you saw going on in California. And the two states that basically give very little restrictions are West Virginia and Mississippi, and they have been the least likely to see a measles outbreak. So this is a problematic thing regarding, again, issues regarding civil liberties, but then on top of this, considering the level of faith that people have in the government and trust in the government right now, if a vaccine does come out, do people actually believe that vaccine is effective and not something that's been rushed out for political reasons?
Joshua, you've been monitoring polling on this issue. What are you thinking about after hearing what the candidates have to say?
Yeah, I mean, I agree largely with what Professor McDaniel said, and I think the key point there is it's always different when you're talking about kids versus when you're talking about adults, and that makes things a little bit more difficult. But I think broadly, what you saw from both candidates in some ways was sort of a tepid embrace of vaccines, and I think that's because they're both trying to manage different cross currents within their parties. So, for Senator Cornyn, there is a small but active minority within the Republican Party who are very skeptical about vaccines, and certainly a larger share of Republicans who are skeptical of mandates in general. And so for MJ Hagar, what she has is she has a party that's definitely more embracing of science and the vaccines, but they're not trusting the process right now. Regardless of which candidate wins this election, who is in the White House and who's in control of the Congress, everybody needs compliance. And so I think that's how you could see these different responses here. Hagar said, yeah, I'll trust vaccines if the doctors put it through a process that we can trust. And Cornyn was very quick to say, yeah, I mean, I'll get one, but I'm not going to rush out the door to get one, which I think, speaks to, both parties' orientations, both towards the virus and the process. But again, in the context of the fact that they need compliance.
Mm-hmm. Gromer, I know that when we were listening to them, it didn't seem like they had a direct answer about what to do when it comes to children in this issue, but they did bring up some other interesting points. For instance, Senator Cornyn talked about the balance, because when kids are not at school, but maybe they can't afford, some of the technology, or they do have technology challenges to get that virtual learning done. So it's kind of a give and take.
Yeah, it is. And, and the whole vaccine issue was made easier for them because right now we actually don't have a vaccine. So they were talking in theory, so to speak. But just think about this. It's hard to get a lot of people out there to wear masks. And so on one level, it's good that they're having this discussion right now, at least to prime the pump, so to speak, to get people ready and children ready to take a vaccine, because this mask thing snuck up on everybody. You just think it's a political issue now, and there are folks who don't really want to wear it. And so hopefully a vaccine won't have those sort of political currents tied with it, but maybe it will.
When we come back, we'll get a different perspective on the Senate debate, how the answers from the candidates could play in different communities across Texas.